So, the MacGuffin tapes are back with the second issue.
Who would have thought?
Well, I was hoping we all thought, but okay.
No, I agree. I was hopeful, but yeah, great to be here for the second one.
So yeah, it being February, the topic we decided to go for today is romance films. And romance is not really my genre, nor is it Dario's, but Michael is a specialist.
Yeah, I was a bit. I mean, I said I really like romance movies, but I'm still a bit surprised that apparently, yeah, I do watch a lot of romance movies.
Like, you just compared to us, like, probably we are not the best people to compare against,
Right.
though, because we
Yeah.
are just not on the spectrum at all.
To be
Yeah.
honest, though, there's also not a whole lot of romance movies out there. I feel like it's not like they're printing them on a daily basis. Except those cringy Christmas
Yeah,
romance
Hallmark
comedies.
movies.
Oh, yeah,
That's true.
exactly. Those American ones.
If somebody just says a rom-com to me, the first thing that comes to mind is the last one we have seen of this kind, which is the one that came out on Netflix with Jing Yang.
Oh, with Ching Yang, yeah. How
Remember?
is it? I don't even know how the actor's called.
I don't remember.
Wait, let me check. Michael, you have not seen Silicon Valley, right?
No.
The series. Okay, wait, Ching Yang actor. No clue how the guy's called.
And Nina Dobrev was the actress in it.
Ah, okay. I know which movie it
Jimmy
is.
O. Yang, actually pretty much the same.
Actually, yeah, quite similar.
Jimmy is the friend, and then she ends up falling for the friend, or
He is posing as a friend of his who is a good-looking guy on the internet, and she falls in love with him over the internet and then comes into this town and meets him, and obviously he is somebody else.
It's called Love Heart, FYI, for everybody who does not remember how it was called.
But yeah, this is the one that I can think of that is also one of those cringier ones, or let's say simpler ones. But at the same time, I must say, it does fit into our mold of millennial romance that we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah. So actually, it's an interesting point because I think these Christmas romance movies that you find on Netflix, mostly, I believe, I would say those are still like a bit they follow the sort of the plots or the model of older romance movies, like from 30 plus years ago. But yeah, I mean, nowadays I would say we have less romantic movies than we used to have, and maybe they are more not so, how to put it, not so platonic, not so idealistic that two people meet and they fall in love together and it's all perfect and yeah, I'll always like painted in color purple.
So what is the average plot of contemporary romance movies then? If you had to summarize it in a sentence or two.
I think this is going a little bit to the topic of what we noticed, the pattern that Michael and I noticed in the romantic films nowadays in comparison to those 90s, early 2000 films where somebody runs through security to stop the plane because the love of their life is like flying away to another city, you know?
Right.
And now it's more that like the other way. It's more like let them go because maybe this is exactly what they need.
Oh.
So I think there is different patterns and different endings to films nowadays, and the happy end is not necessarily there, or the happy end is different.
I understand. Maybe it's also a bit more catering to the reality of relationships, and that probably 50+% of them fail. So like, lower your expectations kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, that is the point. I think that's what we were discussing, that we kind of grew up watching the other kind of romance films that don't pass the reality check nowadays. for example, another kind of film that is different to how it was back in the day is, for example, long distance relationships. Nowadays, it's much more prevalent, this topic, because obviously it's much more common to have an online relationship, a long distance relationship. So this topic is much newer.
Yeah, but I would agree with what you both said, that on the one hand, the a bit older romantic movies or romantic comedies are more about like these big gestures, and the movie that came to mind when you described that example was Love Actually, which is still, I think, 2000s or yeah, early 2000s. But yeah,
Cringe
nowadays,
alert.
exactly. But nowadays, I think it's more about, yeah, it's more realistic. It's more about the intricacies of the relationship, like the reality, also living together. I mean, it's not about the falling in love part, but also more about the, um, yeah,
Staying
the
in love.
staying, like, yeah, and the relationship and how that evolves, maybe.
That's true. Yeah. So it's more about, the difficulties that people have to go through to keep their love going, basically.
Yeah, it's about the minutia. It's about the day to day. It's yeah, of course there are still maybe romantic comedies where some things get a bit exaggerated or some situations are a bit extreme, but yeah, overall I would say yeah, not so. It's not like a fairy tale if I had to compare it to anything. And yeah, maybe the other thing is that we have, maybe that's over the last 10 years, maybe a bit more, but we have also more movies about I mean, not just heterosexual love, but also from the LGBTQ plus
For
side.
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's the range got expanded a lot more, if you will.
That's true. The film that made me realize this, or the film where I really noticed this, the breaking of the pattern of the romance film, for me personally, was La La Land, which probably was not the first film to do that. But I just know that me watching this film and being disappointed with this film actually has absolutely everything to do with the ending, because I really was watching it and I thought, what a beautiful love story, it's going to be all good, and then it's just not. And or rather, it's not good, but it's just not good in the way that you expected. You didn't expect that ending, which doesn't make it a bad ending in itself, or the relationship is not worth it, but it's just playing with the expectation.
Yeah, maybe that's, yeah, the difference maybe nowadays as well is that there isn't always a happy ending, or it's a bittersweet ending, or it's a um how to put it? Yeah,
Look at me,
it's
I'm already crying.
yeah, it's a realistic ending, if you will.
I have a question about La La Land, having not seen it. Why are they always dancing in this movie? Are
It's a
they?
musical.
Okay, that would
That's why you
explain it.
haven't seen it.
That also is why I haven't
But do
seen
you
it.
know who the director is?
I can look it up.
You should.
Director. Well, Damien Chazelle, and now I know absolutely still nothing. Who?
Are you serious? Whiplash.
Oh, okay. He just
Yeah.
likes music, the guy, huh?
That's true.
I think in general we can say that this seems to be a pattern of the films of this millennial generation. So the people that are in relationships now and started getting into relationships maybe in 2010s or around that time. So people about, I don't know, in their 30s now, maybe. At least for us, it looks like a pattern that goes away from the standards of rom-coms or romance films of the early 2000s or of the 90s.
I think romantic comedies used to be quite a popular genre. I mean, those are movies that people would go out to see. I don't know if that's still the case anymore, but I guess for a larger audience or general audience, maybe nowadays it's more at home that people watch those movies, but I would say probably, yeah, in the early 2000s or uh, late 90s, those were popular movies that are entertaining, and then you go see them
Mhm.
on a date or something, and yeah,
Well, but another thing that you must say is that it's quite hard to find the romance films that are specifically romance films. I think a romance is generally appears in all films or in the majority of films, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a romance film. There's always the love line in the
It's a
film.
side plot at most of the time.
Yes. So, but we, for the sake of this podcast, wanted to look specifically into films that are romantic films. And, well, maybe, okay, romantic comedies, but the romance itself, the love story, is in the center of the story.
yeah, and we didn't limit ourselves to like romantic comedies. Maybe that would have been a bit more narrow or a bit of a tighter definition or category, but yeah, quite more open how we chose it for this episode.
Yeah, and as far as the patterns go, the endings, let's say, although it's not necessarily always the ending, I think as we go through the films that we wanted to discuss today, we will notice the patterns, or we will discuss the endings or the patterns in the specific film that we noticed. But overall, I think what it always is connected to, or mostly connected to, is the personal development of the characters as well. Because, well, if the romance is not in the center, if the love story and the survival of the love is not the end goal of it, then the end goal is personal development, I think. And the transformation of the characters that go through this love story.
Yeah, that's a good point. The duration as well. I mean, I was thinking that maybe for romantic comedies, the duration of the plot is usually limited to a couple of days or a shorter period of time. But for romance movies, that's usually quite longer. And I agree, it has to do with the growth of the characters and their relationship. Mm. Yeah, so, and I think that's also a trend in the recent years that it's they almost fall into sense of coming of age movies, if you will, because it's about personal development, and yeah, we get to see and explore the life of these people through the movie. All right, then should we get started with the next section?
Yeah, explain what it is.
Yes. So this idea I got from a movie journalist that I listened to. Shout out to Jake Hamilton from yeah, from the Real Bet podcast. And what he did, he had a rom-com movie bracket. Um, and those movies were, I feel like, a bit on the older side, maybe targeted towards his audience. So you have something like Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally. I don't have all the movies on the top of my head, but if you will, those are sort of the classic rom-coms. And yeah, so we decided to also do like a bracket list, but like we said, about romance movies from the millennial, of this millennium,
Hmm. The millennials' perspective.
the millennials perspective, right? And so how this is going to work, we have 16 movies, and we have seen these movies. At least two of us have seen these movies, and then yeah, we have two brackets, eight on one side, eight on the other side, and there's always going to be a matchup. Two movies are going to be matched up, and we have to decide which movie passes to the next round.
And we have to agree, so it's going to be the
Yes,
decision of us three.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if we all had to decide individually, the list would, or the end result would look much different.
No, at least two of us have to agree on which movie passes on to the next round.
Was it organized at random, how they are matched?
This one was sorted at random. I decided, yeah, let's just leave it by chance. Let's see how this works out. So the movies we included, I think, are from the 2000s onward, but the
Yeah.
main,
But do we have the 2000s as well?
I think we have a couple of them.
Oh, no, do we not have 10 Things I Hate About You?
No, we excluded that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at least two of us have seen one of these movies.
And just, we must also, a disclaimer here, that we decided based on the films that we have seen, and the films had to be seen at least by two of us, which limits the list quite a bit because, as we said, Dario and I are not into romance films.
Well, to be fair, you also mentioned a couple of romance movies that I haven't seen, but anyway, I think it works out for the best because otherwise this list would be very, very long and we would sit here for, I don't know, more than 2 hours talking about these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is also that we discuss the movies, that we talk a bit about the themes, and yeah, this ranking here is not set in stone. I would say it's just we capture the moment, what we think about what is maybe the best romance movie today to this point. Okay, so the first matchup we have 500 Days of Summer versus the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Well, I mean, anything with Steve Carell always advances. It's an easy game here.
I mean, yeah, the 40-Year-Old Virgin is a classic. It's super funny. I think it also applies this that it's more about a realistic relationship and maybe one of these more modern situations where, I don't know, guys get to a point later in life where they haven't had any relationship, and then they decide, okay, I don't want to be alone anymore. Yeah. What about 500 Days of Summer?
Yeah. Do you have an opinion?
Why don't you get ahead?
Otherwise, this is not a good start for me because I haven't seen one and I hate the other.
You don't like 500 Days of Summer?
I don't like 500 Days of Summer
Okay.
now.
I heard once that it's more maybe a movie from a guy's perspective. Would you agree?
Definitely
Yeah.
is.
Sorry, very quickly, 40-Year-Old Virgin, some highlights of internet culture that came out of it. There's iconic
Ooh.
quotes. The first one being, "You know how I know you're gay?" Apparently. Or Kelly Clarkson, exclamation mark, apparently. Steve Carell's genuine scream during the chest waxing scene.
That is true. That I remember.
Or Bag of Sand, apparently. The moment when Andy awkwardly describes what a woman's breasts feels like. Okay. And it's cringe comedy era, apparently. The rise of it. It kind of started that
Ooh.
trend.
All right.
Yeah, I guess you can see by the types of jokes that this is an older movie. I don't know if some of these jokes would still get made today, but yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, tell us, why do you hate it?
Oh, goodness. Like, in terms of the film quality, it's not a bad movie, of course. It's just a frustrating film because this is a film about someone who is overly romanticizing something without necessarily being very invested in it, because I feel like he's just living in his dream, in his head, in something that he created for himself, and he completely disregards the person that he wants a relationship with. He is just thinking more in terms of how does it fit my dream. And again, the fact that Zooey Deschanel is playing this pixie dream girl character is only adding to this. It's just this character that somebody created in their own head and doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with reality. And what is the most frustrating thing about it is that the character, at least the way I see it, the character of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, by the end of the film, didn't really learn anything about it, because he then meets Autumn at the end of the movie, right? Because the joke of the name of the film is that Summer is the name of the girl that he is in love with. And then by the end of it, he meets Autumn. And then another cycle starts. I just think this is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I mean that's I got the descriptions, and I don't remember the ending exactly, but I had the impression that he might have learned something. And I think, at least for me, the point of the movie was that, okay, this is just a fiction that he created in his head, and this is, so he's projecting the relationship that he wants to have, or the girl he wants to meet, but it not the reality. And I think that quite well fits into the some of the aspects we were talking about before. I think
Definitely.
I was thinking also about Joseph Gordon-Levitt also directed this movie, I think, or he wrote it, the Don John movie, and I think there we have some similar topics about him meeting a gorgeous woman played by Scarlett Johansson, and yeah, there's some overlap there. But yeah, I mean, definitely told from his perspective, and yeah, maybe a bit one-sided as well. Yeah.
Well, in that sense, the film itself is not a bad film. It's just a frustrating story. So technically speaking, it's not the film that I dislike, it's the story and the character. So I can't really say if it's correct to judge it in that way.
Yeah. On the other hand, 40-year-old virgin ends on a happy note, if you will. Yeah, as far as I can remember. Huh?
And I must also say that 500 Days of Summer is exactly the film that happened before La La Land times that fits into the millennial romance pattern of breaking the traditional happy ending, eternal love story.
Yes. If I do remember correctly, it's also not told chronologically, or it's told about, well, throughout these 500 days. So it's the duration is, yeah, almost 2 years, which is a bit longer than something like 40-year-old virgin, which happens over, let's say, a couple of months.
So, do we want to take
Yeah,
a vote?
let's vote. What do you think?
I already voted. Steve Carell advances.
Michael, what do you think?
I think I'm going with 500 Days of Summer, just because
Oh,
of the
goodness.
themes, I would say.
So now I have to decide. Oh, it's hard because I haven't seen the 40-year-old virgin. So, but just based on my taste in films, I would say that I would rather rewatch 500 Days of Summer than watch the 40-year-old virgin.
Oh yeah, you totally would, for sure, because the other one probably sexualizes way more than you would appreciate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
and it's just, as you said, it's cringe comedy, so I'm not a fan.
I mean, both of these movies I think are very rewatchable. Maybe even 40-year-old virgin more so than 500 Days of Summer. Because of the jokes and some of the funny scenes, yeah.
But if it is my decision, I think still I would go with 500 Days of Summer. Who would have thought I would ever say that? Not me.
Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
My God, Past Lives versus Moonrise Kingdom. Kill me now. I have to choose.
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Moonrise Kingdom.
So, Moonrise Kingdom is a Wes Anderson film about two kids in about 1960s that decide to run away together because they love each other. They decided. They saw each other from afar once, and that's how they knew that they. Oh, no, wait, they even talked before, right? I forgot that. They talked for about 30 seconds, and they decided that they're in love and they will run away with each other. Very romantic. And Past Lives is a story about two school sweethearts that were in love with each other as children living in Korea until the girl moved to the US, and they were not in contact for about 10 years or more until they found each other on Facebook and got back in contact. And I would say this Past Lives is probably the epitome of what I am talking about when I talk about millennial romance.
Yeah, they meet after 10 years over Facebook, and then I think their interaction continues over Facebook or Skype online communication, so you can see the technology evolving as they get older. Yeah, until the guy, I forget the name of the character, comes to visit her in America.
Yeah, so, and another thing is that they were in contact online, and they it's kind of hinting towards them starting an online relationship. It's not really that clear cut where we can definitely say that that's what happened, but there are some feelings there still or again. But then they have to cut contact because it doesn't fit into their life. And then still some years pass until he comes to visit her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is a beautiful story. I love this story.
And Moonrise Kingdom is also regarded as one of the better or more approachable Wes Anderson movies.
Probably. I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite. It's probably my second favorite after Darjeeling Limited.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first film, the first Wes Anderson film I've seen. So I don't know, I have really warm feelings towards it. I really love it. It's also, in a way, a coming of age story, just as much as it is a romance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it's an interesting matchup because in some regards these are similar, these two movies.
That's true, actually, yeah.
How can you ever compare a movie of Wes Anderson to any other director and say they're similar? Wes Anderson is always like standing out.
Well, why?
Well, because of the way he makes movies, right? I mean, he's got this very unique cinematography in there with like all these colors and the interesting shots and
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
yeah, but you can compare some other things. You can compare the story. You can compare the characters. There are different aspects that you can compare, and in this sense, it is about childhood love or affection.
Fair enough, I guess.
No, I agree. I mean, you can compare them a bit from the story perspective, from the plot perspective. Like both movies show a relationship that starts in the young years. Both of the characters are kids, but of course, Moonrise Kingdom has this, like you said, Dario, the color palette of Wes Anderson, the static images, the sort of rhythm that Wes Anderson movies have. What was the ending of Moonrise Kingdom? I can't really
It's a
remember.
rather happy ending. I mean, they continue communicating, so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, Past Lives, should we spoil the ending of Past
No,
Lives?
we should not. This
We should
movie
not.
is too beautiful to say anything about it.
Okay.
It should just be watched and enjoyed.
Yeah.
It's a great film. And I think I actually, now thinking about it and looking at the both of those that we have, I think I have my answer.
Yeah, I have my answer too. For me, it's Past Lives, I guess. I guess mostly because of this movie, Past Life, came out during a year where, yeah, the characters are more or less the same as most millennials, and we have similar experiences. And what also gets shown throughout the movie is the change of technologies, the change of communication, the change of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
how people go to study or go live in another city and grow up, and then you re-meet again after many years. So I think past lives I like more from that regard, that it's closer to where I am now, or most of us millennials are now in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in that regard, the movie is very relatable, especially for people who have experience with long distance relationships, which I do. So, yeah, for me, this was a very relatable film, and that's why it made me cry so much. But I love crying, so it's great. I love this film.
I love
And
crying.
a little bit of a detour. As research for the podcast, for today's podcast, I rewatched Like Crazy, and Dario came into the room, and I was crying. I was bawling. I was like, my face was all swollen, and I was about an hour into the film, and I started 10 minutes into the film. And I was crying for like 50 minutes on the sofa.
What a
I love
pleasant
that.
experience.
It is, because when you are watching something, and in that film, in Like Crazy, Michael, I can really recommend it to you. In that film, I just could see myself. Not only could I see the experience that I had, or a similar experience that I had, but I could literally see myself in Felicity Jones, because it is happening in about 2010s. I think the film is like 2011, and the way she dresses, the way she looks, I could just see myself. I literally wore the same stuff, I looked the same way. So I just, looking at that, I just thought, okay, this is crazy. I'm like looking into the past at myself. So
Mhm.
this was a very interesting experience rewatching this film.
Dario, what about you? Moonrise Kingdom, Past Lives?
My vote doesn't even count anymore because Past Lives already won, but I also think probably Past Lives because, first of all, I have seen Moonrise Kingdom, but it's been so long that it's hard for me to remember everything. Past Lives I've seen not so long ago, and it was good. So let's give Past Lives the win.
Okay, Past Lives moves on. Next matchup. Oh, this is an interesting one.
Ooh, okay.
Out of principle, obviously not Shrek.
Dial 911. Tell the police to get up here quick. Somebody's about to get killed.
Well, shoot me by all means. I stand with my opinion that it is not a great movie.
To be honest, though, is Challengers a romance film? It's more of a bromance film, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a love triangle. So, but Dario, why do you not like Shrek? What's so terrible about Shrek?
First of all, animation sucks. Second of all, look at Shrek. He's disgusting. And the only funny dude is Eddie Murphy as the donkey. Seriously, everything else in this movie is like not worth it. And maybe this gingerbread man is also pretty cool. But
See what I'm dealing with here?
but I don't know, it's just like it's a
This is
children's
insane.
movie.
I think it should be illegal to dislike Shrek. I just think, like, how are you a real person if you dislike Shrek? I don't get it.
Well,
But actually, Dario, you said Shrek is ugly, but that's sort of the
That's the
point of the
point.
movie, right? That it doesn't matter who you are outside, it's who you're inside.
yeah, not really though. This is like, what kind of utopia are you living in? Come on. It does matter also how you look on the outside if you want to stand a chance, most of the time. So, going back to the initial topic of uh, romance movies being more realistic, this is not a realistic romance movie. I mean, obviously not. It's all fantasy anyway, but you get the point.
No, but I agree. I mean, what you mean that the outside does matter as well, or the attraction, and that's something that in challenges. I mean, at least I felt like okay, there's like attraction in there. I mean, between the three of them, and in a sort of way, yeah, between the three of them.
Look, and I have just a few more headlines here for you. What ChatGPT thinks why Shrek sucks. Are you interested?
Go ahead.
ChatGPT thinks that Shrek sucks. This is not a real thing.
I asked reasons why Shrek sucks. It gave me actually 10 points why Shrek sucks.
Go on.
It says it's overly reliant on pop culture jokes. Shrek is a church and not even in a lovable way. The animation hasn't aged well. The soundtrack is overrated and overplayed. It tries too hard to be anti-Disney. The humor is just fart jokes and sarcasm. Shrek and Fiona's romance is kinda weak. It spawned a franchise that went on for too long. Hashtag Fast and the Furious. Donkey carries the entire movie, which is true.
No.
It's true. Without the donkey, nobody would care about this movie. And
He's a comic relief. That's the point of him.
and then the last point, which is obviously can't agree with that because there's never no such thing as that, but it says the internet has over memed it to death. I'm done.
Listen, all those points are invalid. Move on.
To be fair, to give some points to Shrek, I mean, it's a very relevant movie in pop culture. And the other thing, maybe that the Fiona, the princess, is also not like the typical princess character, so maybe not so much like the traditional Disney princesses, and that was something that Disney changed in the later years as they kept making new movies like Tangled or I don't know, Moana or any of these new female lead characters. But yeah, maybe I wanted to add some things to Challengers. Like Challengers, as we discussed before, is also a movie that takes place over multiple years. So we see the main characters during their high school years, I think, or college years, and then as they move through college and adulthood, as they have children. So yeah, again, like it's about we get to see quite a decent chunk of their lives and how the relationship changes between the guys and with
Zendaya.
Zendaya's character as well. Thank you. So yeah, we see the growth of these characters, or how they change, or how they do not change, maybe. So I guess who should? Yeah, Dario, you get the word first this time.
Well, obviously Challengers, although I haven't even seen the movie.
This should not be legal. I go with Shrek,
Yeah,
obviously.
Michael would
Well,
too.
no, I will go with Challengers.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank God. Otherwise, I would have to fight it to death, that goddamn Shrek movie not winning this challenge. Ooh, this is also an interesting one, but a clear win for me already.
So this next matchup is Palm Springs versus Crazy Stupid Love.
I don't even remember Crazy Stupid Love.
I would say this is like a well-liked movie with general audiences. I didn't see this one or when it got released, so I saw it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, it stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, and the first time where Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling star together as a couple in a movie.
Is it the first time?
Is it the first time? Yeah, might be the second time.
I feel like they were in movies together a lot
be.
around that time.
How many times? I mean, oh, I didn't know that. Actually, only 3 times, guys.
Really?
Crazy
Okay. Which
Stupid
movies?
Love, Gangster Squad, La La Land.
All right.
Their chemistry is so good that fans keep hoping for a 4th collaboration, it says. Would you agree to that?
It would now have to be in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie because that's all Emma Stone does.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, going back to Crazy Stupid Love, Emma Stone is the daughter of Steve Carell, and yeah, she meets this guy, Ryan Gosling, who is like a bit of a bro, if you could say that, like a
Yeah,
ladies'
bro.
man. Yeah. And doesn't Ryan Gosling give Steve Carell tips on dating because Steve Carell is dating again?
I think so. He's like a dating coach or something,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Oh my
Right.
God.
Now I remember.
When I hear the word dating coach, I just cringe. Anybody who
As you
anybody who
should.
chooses this as their life's profession has an issue.
I was just thinking about Hitch, which was another movie that is sort of about a dating coach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And yeah, I think Steve Carell starts dating Demi Moore's character. And well, the conflict is when yeah, Steve Carell finds out that Ryan Gosling is dating his daughter, and there's this famous scene where they're sort of getting one of them they punch each other or something like that. I honestly don't remember the details, but I think that's one of the big scenes of that movie.
And Palm Springs, has everyone seen it?
Yes.
So Dario, you were about to sum up the plot for me.
Of Palm Springs. Well, it's basically if you want to a remake of Groundhog Day, so that he gets stuck in a loop. They're at the wedding and he gets stuck in this loop, and then they leave. He relives this wedding day for I don't even know how many time, and is this other girl there, and yeah, that's basically the start of the movie or how it evolved then.
Yeah, so initially they are not in the loop together. It's just him who gets stuck in this day. And then the girl, as the story develops, the girl gets stuck with him. And that's how the relationship then starts. Or rather, considering that he relived the same day, the relationship started before that. It's just she would not know about it.
And what was the conflict again about Palm Springs? So if I remember, one of them wanted to stay in the loop, or the other one.
One of them wants to leave no matter what and is trying to find ways to do that. And Andy Samberg's character is basically going with the flow. He
Yeah,
doesn't
but
necessarily want to stay there, but he also doesn't look actively for ways to leave
I
the
mean, yeah,
loop.
because he's tried everything to leave and he knows it's not possible.
Well, clearly he didn't try everything.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. No, don't necessarily agree that yeah, okay, it is a conflict, but
Yeah, and again here we can see their relationship from multiple angles, or if you will, it's a bit like like a character from a computer game, and you get to restart his or her story again each time. Yeah, and perfecting that story, which is sort of what happens in Groundhog Day as well.
vote.
Votes. So let me start this time. I'm going to go with Palm Springs because yeah, it's funny. It's a bit more up to date. Yeah, and I think the conflict is also a bit more grounded than would say Crazy Stupid Love.
I agree.
Fully agree too. 3 votes for Palm Springs.
Then let's move on to the next matchup. Oh, this is already the second
Oh,
round. We are going through the left side of the bracket. So this is the second round so this is the semifinals of the left bracket, and we have 500 Days of Summer versus Past Life.
I mean, for me, it's clear. It's gonna be Past Lives for me all the way on this side. There is no other film on this side that I will vote for.
I will fight you later on. But now I'm on
Right.
your side.
Okay,
Past lives.
so we are all on the same side. We all vote for Past
All
Life. Yeah,
aligned.
yeah. I think Past Life is much more well-rounded than 500 Days of Summer, and like we said, it's both of their perspective and not just from the guy's perspective. Past Lives moves on. Then the next one we have Challengers versus Palm Springs. Okay, this one I think this one will be more difficult. I don't know.
Not for me. I mean, Challengers, again, I'm not a huge fan of Luca Guadagnino films. I don't know. I mean, of course it's a good film, but I prefer a more lighthearted Palm Springs to Challengers.
Yeah, for me, this is tough. I'm thinking about the rhythm, and both have a really interesting rhythm, or they're very fast-paced in some instances. Cool. Which one will I rewatch? I guess I would rewatch Challengers again see um just to see some more of the details of the characters, like how some of the nuances throughout the time, how their interaction works.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going with Challengers.
I would say that as far as the rewatch is concerned, I would rewatch both of them, but just for different reasons. Because as you say, Challengers you can rewatch for more of the nuances of the story, and Palm Springs just for fun.
Agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
All right, so I got the final say. That may be a bit basic, but I like Andy Samberg, so for me, he wins this race.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
So we're grounded and not too lofty.
You know, like you look at it like from all angles, you know, oh, this is lighter and it has a more elaborate plot, and it's just the guy is there, so
And then Dario comes in, he's like, I love Andy Samberg, so that's what I'm choosing.
I mean, come on, who doesn't love Andy Samberg? He's great.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he
Just
is
a
great in this
legend.
role, and he's not just he doesn't only play the comedic aspect, so he has also the sort of the disappointed side that he has given up hope on getting out of the loop. So yeah, I think this is probably one of his better roles, if you will.
And not to forget that Kristin Milioti is also in it, who is now got a lot more famous with the Penguin, I think.
True. I was thinking of Kristin Milioti earlier, when we were talking about, I think, 500 Days of Summer, because Kristin Milioti was the mother in How I Met Your Mother, which was also quite an influential series, if you will, and not a lot of people like the ending. I personally do,
Right,
but
but yeah, she only appeared super late in the series, right?
exactly, and only in
So
the
if
last
you
season.
say How I Met Your Mother, she's probably the last person you would think of.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. But here, Palm Spring
Yeah,
moves on.
Palm Spring
That
moves on.
leaves us with the finals of the left bracket.
Ooh.
All right.
Okay, so Past Lives against Palm Springs.
To be honest, it's super hard. It depends on the mood.
Yeah,
So not fair to compare those two movies somehow.
I guess Past Life, you wouldn't want to watch a second time because it's a hard movie to watch in
I have
some ways.
seen it several times.
Yeah?
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just to cry, like you said, just to bawl.
No. I watched it when we were showing it at Freiluftkino, so I think that was my second watch, so I was just there. So I watched it, but I think I also wanted to watch it. I don't know. I would have no problem rewatching this film. It's great. Also has a lot of details that maybe you would miss the first time. Not so much to the plot, but more so to the characters and their reactions and how they emote, and more that, I think, than other details.
And I was just thinking, yeah, maybe, I mean, I agree with everyone. He said it's really mood dependent, but I was thinking of the ending, and Past Lives doesn't have a um bad ending, if you will. It's actually quite hopeful.
I would literally rewatch Past Lives just to see this ending. I love the ending of Past Lives. This is such a touching ending. It's a very bittersweet ending. It's kind of like an affirmation of a relationship, or of, yeah, I won't spoil it, but of a relationship that she has. And I find it very beautiful. This ending is one of the most beautiful endings as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
I mean, it has some bittersweet component, but the end, I think it's like you said, that reaffirmation of that relationship. So yeah, I think it's quite hopeful in a way, if you will. All right, should we get down to voting?
I don't know. Do we need to plead our case more? For me, you know what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be past lives. If you are on the fence, I can still try to persuade you.
Michael is the only one on the fence, I feel like. I mean, for me, it's Palm Springs.
All right.
I agree on this on that part, that Past Lives has this gut punch moment, if you will, that it has some difficult parts to it. But I would side with Allah on this one, that it ends in a sort of more uplifting way, and it's also the feeling of that movie leaves you with stays, or for me stayed longer than Palm Springs. I don't remember how I felt after watching Palm Springs, at least the ending, but I do remember that feeling of past life, that sort of gut punch on the one hand, that bitter sweetness, but also like sort of the liberation, or the affirmation we talked about. Yeah. So yeah, I would past life as well.
I mean, I do not necessarily object, because from a cinematic point of view, probably the majority of movie appreciators would side with you, I feel like.
Okay, first finalist, past life. So now we move on to the right-hand side of the bracket, and our first matchup is Her versus Hitman.
All right. So Hitman is relatively new. It's a Richard Linklater film, which I think is rather unusual for Richard Linklater, this film. It's kind of a comedy slash romance. The character, what's the actor's name again? Sorry.
It's the Ryan Gosling clone.
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell's character. So Glenn Powell's character is playing kind of a nerd, which in itself already is so unrealistic. Look at this man. Come on. Even with the minimal makeup that they invested into making him into a nerd, this just doesn't fly. I'm sorry. And
Yeah, he plays like a college professor about, what was it, psychology or human behavior, or
I
something
think it
along
was
those
probably
lines.
psychology.
Yeah, and he is sort of a consultant for the local police department. He is a consultant for a specific part of the department. It's a unit that deals with, or gets in contact with, potential criminals, and wants to get a confession out of these criminals so that they can arrest them.
So yeah, the people that want to hire a hitman basically, and they kind of impersonate a hitman so that they can catch them in the act.
Exactly. And there's one character who first plays that role of the hitman, but I think he messes up one of these encounters with a criminal, so that's why he gets suspended, and then that's where Glenn Powell comes in and replaces him as the yeah, stand-in hitman, or sort of the actor playing a hitman, and he goes into multiple personalities, multiple characters to catch different bad guys, and he ends up being really good until he ends up meeting this woman who wants to kill her husband, and they sort of, or he sort of falls for her.
Yeah, and then Her. What can we say? A very timely film, although it was made about 10 or 15 years ago now. When was Her released? 2013 was the year. And it is a film about, I think it's probably even happening in 2025. Can that be? Daria, could you check in the background? I'm not sure if it has a specific time in mind or a specific year, but it's definitely set in the near future to the situation, well, the year when it was made. It is a story about a man who falls in love with his voice assistant slash operating system that is an AI.
It plays in the around the 2030s or 40s,
Oh,
it
okay.
says.
All right.
Yeah, but this movie, in some sense, more relevant now than 10 years ago with the rise of the artificial intelligence, if you will, and the agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wasn't he working for like a marketing company and they sell these assistants?
This is an interesting point because I feel like wasn't he working for a company that creates cards?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Which
cards.
is
Yeah.
quite interesting because this is literally 500 Days of Summer. Because that's literally, I think, what he was also doing. Of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. Well, I would say those movies are very different. This might be, I feel like the first match that could not be more different.
Yeah, agree.
Because Hitman is obviously a comedy. It has some, well, crime slash comedy elements to it, or crime elements to the comedy, let's say. And Her is a drama about loneliness, about not being able to establish a connection with another person. So instead, you are trying it with an AI, which is obviously not the same thing as also the movie tells you.
And which
Yeah.
is totally going to happen in real life sooner
I
rather
mean,
than
I'm sure it's
later.
already happening.
It's already
Probably.
happening, yeah. I mean, I think at least from what I hear or read, like in Asia and Japan, I mean, some people tend to be very lonely, and I mean, I see this is a very real scenario there and in other countries as well. I mean, here in Europe. So, but yeah, I think they're quite different, but I would say they present some extreme scenarios, both of them, because Hitman, I'm going to spoil the movie for a bit. Sorry if you haven't seen it, but the extreme scenario in Hitman is that the her character, I forget her name,
So
but
the
she,
character of the girl.
yeah, the character. Well, actually, both of them, they end up killing this guy who was working at the police department, and Glenn Powell replaces. And then, yeah, so at the end of the movie, sort of, they are left with this moral issue. Okay, they killed someone, and how do they move on? So, yeah, maybe not very realistic in a sense, but I mean, there are a lot of things that happen in relationships and hardships or difficult situations you get into, and that you sort of have to sort out or figure out, okay, can we move past this sort of issue? So in that sense, yeah, maybe, yeah, truer to the millennial part of romances, but definitely
I
from the
mean,
plot.
hopefully people don't kill someone together.
No, no,
That's kind of hard to come back from, I feel
yeah,
like.
yeah. But yeah, from the plot perspective, a more traditional movie.
Yeah. Well, do we want to vote?
Should we vote? Yeah, sure.
I vote for Her.
I vote for her. Okay. Dario, what about you?
To be honest, I have only seen Hitman, but I can totally see how her is a probably much more deserved to advance. I feel like from also what the general feedback of the internet community seems to have been. I don't know. Would you vote for her as well, Michael? Because then I abstain.
Yeah, no, I would vote for her as well. I mean, because
Good.
it's more relevant, I guess, nowadays, more rewatchable, if you will, because now younger people might find or might get to know this movie, and there are still things that I think might resonate. Also, what I distinctly remember about this movie is Scarlett Johansson's portrayal. I mean, she plays the voice of the assistants. I don't know if her voice gets enhanced somehow. I would tend to believe that, but uh, I mean, just her voice, like how she speaks, it's very important for the tone of the movie. Like this very, I don't know if seductive voice, but sure as well. And yeah, I think her performance is very crucial for that movie to work.
Also, her has very specific imagery, so it's a very colorful film for the serious topic that it talks about, which maybe again you could view in a certain way, or you could kind of look at the movie from that perspective. What does the color signify? Even the poster, like the both posters that we are looking at now, are very colorful. But her, as we said, is like a sad film, and yet the poster is so vibrant.
Hmm. Yeah, and I guess in contrast to what the topic of the movie is, and
Hmm.
and also maybe Joaquin Phoenix. I think for him it's also a role that maybe it's not the typical Joaquin Phoenix role, or yeah, or it's maybe not one of the
What is a typical Joaquin Phoenix role? He does everything. His
that is
range is
true.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. But it's maybe not his most not the performance he's most known for. I mean, Joker, of course, and then maybe Gladiator are the
Yeah.
most famous ones. Huh? Okay, so then her moves on to the next round. And the
Oh.
next matchup is The Shape of Water versus La La Land.
Well, easy for me. I despise The Shape of Water. So I
Why?
say La La Land. I cannot watch this. I watched that once, and if I could get back the 2 hours that I spent on this film, I would. I don't like this film. First and foremost, I'm not really a fan of this exaggerated universes that Guillermo del Toro creates. I find this is not for me. It's very specific, and I don't like that. I don't like his universes, and and the story is just not compelling to me. I don't know. I'm not interested.
Yeah, the story is about was it around the 50s where they found this sort of aquatic creature, this sort of merfolk creature, and then her character, the protagonist, she works at that lab or factory where they find this creature, and she ends up bringing the merfolk home, and they to develop a relationship. If I remember now, they interact mostly through sign language or something close to sign language.
Oh,
And
isn't she also? I think she is mute,
that's correct.
and that's
Yeah,
the
no,
point of the
yeah, that's the
character.
point. Yeah.
So this is also a little bit about the loneliness and not fitting into the society. And she, of course, can relate to him more than anybody else.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it also has a very distinct aesthetic, that 50s aesthetic combined with Guillermo del Toro's fantasy elements and the creature design. And well, I don't know if this is any important, but I think Shape of Water won the Oscar that year.
Yes,
Yeah,
that did happen.
that did happen.
And we know what happened to La La Land's Oscar.
Yeah, true. But this might be interesting because Dario is well known that he doesn't like musicals, so I'm interested. Have you seen any of these movies, Dario?
I have not seen either.
Ooh,
So for me,
interesting.
this is a huge black box here.
Yeah, but I
I
don't know.
feel like if Dario, like if I may,
Yeah.
if Dario had to choose, he would go for La La Land over The Shape of Water. I know that for a fact.
Why? But Shape of Water is not a musical, right?
No.
But what's the problem with Shape of Water?
To be honest, I can't really tell you right now because I hated this movie and I did not give it a second thought ever since I watched it. So I cannot really tell you anymore what exactly I didn't like about it. I just know I didn't have a good time with it. But it's been a long time, and so I can't really be very specific.
Yeah, that's the problem for me as well. I mean, I've seen The Shape of Water once and I don't remember it that much anymore. On the other hand, La La Land, I've seen only once, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
Ooh.
And what I do have to say, I have only seen the movie once, but I've listened to the soundtrack so many times. I mean, that soundtrack is amazing for me. I mean, it's the heart of the movie for me. And what's also great is that Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling get to sing in the movie. I mean, we hear their real voices in some of the songs. And this is probably a movie I have this sort of on a pedestal that I don't know if I want to ever watch it again because I like this movie so much. That and also like it has
Ooh.
this gut punch at the ending, this okay, what could have been versus what is.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling, yeah, I mean that's that moment. I don't know if there probably has been, but for many people experiencing that in the cinema or even I think I saw it at home, but experiencing that is like maybe one of these Vader moments, if you will. Like, oh, if you could go back or forget about the movie just to feel that again, I think that
Wow.
effect is really potent.
Interesting. I didn't know that you had such strong feelings about La La
Oh
Land.
yeah, I mean, if it's not clear, yeah, my vote goes for La La Land.
But so you would not rewatch it just so you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean,
So, so your faith in it is not shaken,
it's
just in case.
it's just that experience of watching it the first time was so perfect, like that feeling. And I don't I don't want to go back or I wouldn't mind, but it's like this sort of perfect moment that happened once, and I don't know if I want to relive it again, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Ala, do you also vote for La La Land?
I go with La La Land.
Okay.
Also, if you just think about the types of endings that these movies have, The Shape of Water has a much more of a happy ending than La La Land. And La La Land, as I already said, was probably the film that really attracted my attention to the fact that not all romance films have to end with a happy ending. And so La La Land just has this bittersweet ending of how, as you said, kind of not, what is and what could have been, and maybe the fact that the timing is not always right. The person may be right for you, but the timing may not be right for that person to be in your life.
Yeah, and it's just one moment of your life, and then your life goes on. But yeah, I think the ending is that much more effective because of the build-up, like that first half or that maybe the two-thirds of the movie, that rhythm the movie has with the songs and how their relationship
Mm-hmm.
evolves is so fluid, so natural. that when you get to the last part or the last, I think it's the last sequence of the movie, and then it hits you really hard. Okay,
Well, La La Land it is.
well, and it is.
Oh no.
That's so unfair.
So our next matchup is Licorice Pizza versus Cha-Cha Real Smooth.
My problem is not the fact that I have to now compare these two films. My problem is that I know exactly that my favorite is not going to be Dario's choice, and then it's going to be down to you deciding, Michael.
Oof, and I don't really know. Both of them are great.
Well, let's plead our case. So I feel like Cha-Cha Real Smooth is not a super well-known film. It's the second film of Cooper Raiff, who is a young director / actor. So Shithouse is his first film. This is his second film, Cha-Cha Real Smooth. And I think Cooper Raiff, he plays in both films, and he directs both films. And I think his characters generally, for me, represent the gentle masculinity that we don't see too much of yet in films. This film I really did not intend to watch. It was kind of an interesting thing that happened because Michael and I were choosing what we were going to watch, and we had a choice of two, I think, and then one of them was Cha-Cha Real Smooth, and I, being someone who doesn't like romance films, was very skeptical, and I didn't want to watch it. And I'm so glad that we did, because now this is literally my favorite film. It's funny to say, because as I say, if I don't love romance films, a romance film is my favorite movie. That's kind of strange. But yeah, it is. And it's a story about a young guy, I guess a student, or I think he's about 22 years old, who is working part-time as a DJ at bar mitzvahs. And when he is at one of those parties, he meets a woman who he falls in love with, who is a mother of one of the children that is at the bar mitzvah or the bat mitzvah. And yeah, this is where the story starts. And safe to say, the ending is a very millennial ending. And exactly the love and the relationship, if you can call it that, is rather the journey than the destination in this film.
Yeah, well, so it's also sort of a coming of age movie, if you will. I don't know, Dario, have you seen it?
I have seen both for
Both, okay.
once.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, I mean, that makes it like I love coming of age movies as well.
Yes, they're the best.
They're great. Ala, do you remember the daughter of Dakota Johnson's character?
The daughter of Dakota Johnson's character, I think, is autistic.
Autistic, okay, yeah. Cooper Raiff develops a special relationship with daughter as well. It's really very cute and kind. And sort of
I think that's pretty much actually where it starts, because it's very hard for the girl, for the daughter, to make friends. He kind of becomes her friend. He is very nice to her, and that's what the mother, the Dakota Johnson's character, appreciates, and that's kind of how it starts.
Yeah. And I mean, Dakota Johnson, I think she's also great in this movie. Sort of similar in another movie where she's in, which also has this sort of relationship, this sort of relationship with Peanut Butter Falcon. Or she works at a was it a hospital, no, or like a facility for people with disabilities, and then the main character wants to become a wrestler, and that's where he meets Shia LaBeouf's characters, and they sort of go on an adventure to to turn him into a wrestler. Sort of
Yeah.
a similar constellation of characters. But I thought the matchup was quite interesting because in Licorice Pizza, Hoffman's character also falls in love with a sort of older woman, if you will.
Well, that is true, and I would say in both cases it's kind of a coming of age story. And the difference being though that in Licorice Pizza, the girl is older than the boy, so the boy is about 16 or 15 years old, and she is, I think, in her 20s. But in this relationship, she is the immature character out of the two, although they are both immature. But I guess we would expect from her being older, that she is more mature than the boy, but she's absolutely not.
And I've got a question actually. Is this like more tolerated if it's this way around, that she's older and he's younger? Because the other way around, if that would be a movie, it would have been outrageous, wouldn't it?
To be honest, it still is. I would say
I don't know. Has
it's
there been any
questionable. It is
has there been
questionable.
any critique about this for the movie?
Well, technically speaking, there is no sexual relationship. There is no sexual element to it. I mean, of course, there's the undertone, but there is no explicit sexual relationship that they have. So it's only, I guess, emotional. It's the connection that they have and the attraction that they have to each other, which is not necessarily just the physical attraction that they have.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what I do remember about Licorice Pizza are two things. The first one being, I don't know if it's the opening sequence, but there's this very long take of them moving through the photo shoot for their school pictures, I
I think,
think.
yeah, I think it is the beginning.
Yeah, that's really smooth, and it's oh, now I'm going to mix up the name. It's Paul. This time it's Paul Thomas Anderson, right? Not the Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
I mean, his other famous movie, which starts with this long sequence, is what's it called again? With Mark Wahlberg. About where Mark Wahlberg is a porn star.
All
Wow, I
right.
didn't know there's a movie where Mark Wahlberg is a porn star. That sounds great.
I mean, in this universe, there has to be a movie where Mark Wahlberg is a porn star.
What's it called
Like,
again?
look at the
Boogie
guy.
No,
Nights. There
Mark
we go.
Wahlberg is just
Boogie
this
Nights.
Boogie
Boston
Nights.
doc slash cop slash anything Boston.
That is true.
So yeah, the opening sequence is one thing I remember, and I don't remember the name of the songs, but I think the soundtrack of Licorice Pizza is also quite important for the mood of the movie and that sort of summer feeling. I think there are some famous songs on there, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that sort of long summer that most of us have lived at some point. But yeah, this long summer, these endless days where you just are bored as a kid and do nothing. That sort of feeling that you get when you watch Licorice Pizza is the second thing I remember distinctly.
Yeah, I think it definitely gives you this like very summery feel. It's a very summer movie. The atmosphere that it creates is definitely pulling you in.
So, should we start voting? Ala, you wanna go first?
Oh God. I mean, for me, the choice is obvious. I like both, but I like Cha-Cha Real Smooth much more. And as I said, it became my favorite film. It's really, the feeling that it gave me was not compared to anything. And if it was up to me, maybe it will be, I don't know, maybe we will see how it ends, but if it was up to me, in the very last rounds, I would have Past Lives against Cha-Cha Real Smooth, and that would be my worst nightmare because I love them both.
Well, easy then. Don't vote for Cha-Cha Real Smooth. Maybe
No, it's Cha-Cha
maybe
Real
a quick
Smooth for me.
stance or a quick vote for Licorice Pizza. Michael, maybe you can be sold or bought, sorry, rather. I think Licorice Pizza is great because it's much more of it gives me much more of this nice coming of age feeling when you watch it than Cha-Cha Real Smooth. It's again less sad in comparison, which is why I like it better because I tend to like, I mean, sad films. Okay, sometimes when you're in the mood for them, why not? But mostly funny and happy movies are more my thing. And then also the guy's just cool. He's like this little hustler who's trying to kind of, make money and tries all kinds of stuff and has business ideas to make money. And I just think it's a really cool and funny dynamic these two characters have in the movie, and it's a great movie. I vote for Licorice Pizza.
Just to add to the general millennial feel of the film. So what I really appreciated about Licorice Pizza is that it's very realistic in the portrayal of the people. The people that play there look like real people, not like photoshopped people, which just reminds me, this is the only thing that I remember from Crazy Stupid Love, is the scene where Emma Stone looked at Ryan Gosling's abs and was like, this is Photoshop. So in Licorice Pizza, the people look real. The teenagers look like teenagers and not like 30-year-olds that play them. They have imperfect skin. They look quite normal. And I think this is something I really appreciate about the film.
Yeah, I mean, we put it like in this category, millennial romance movies, but I think we didn't touch upon it. I think it plays in like the 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean,
well, still, but the story is very relatable. I mean, okay, I don't know how relatable the story is, but it's still made nowadays for people now, and I think this immaturity that you can have in a relationship is definitely something that we can relate to.
yeah,
And
for
also,
sure.
you know what? I just realized that not just Cha-Cha Real Smooth, but also Licorice Pizza has a Jewish aspect to it, right? Because she is coming
That's
from a
true.
Jewish
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, this is such a tough matchup. I mean, I like both of them very
Yeah,
much.
that's true.
And I have to decide now. I don't really know. I'm just going to go with, I mean, just today, just going by gut feeling. I'm going with Chacha Real Smooth today, but tomorrow it might be Licorice Pizza.
Ooh.
Ooh, okay.
No, it's okay.
I mean, I'm happy, of course.
It's okay.
I don't know. It could be, if you ask me any other day, I might go another. If I rewatch Licorice Pizza, then I might go for Licorice Pizza. Yeah, both of them are great. The last matchup of the right-hand side bracket is the worst person in the world versus anyone but you.
Have I seen anyone but you?
You have.
Right. It's again with the Ryan Gosling clone.
Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney. This pair is also quite different.
Who is this actress?
The Worst Person in the World is a Norwegian, I think, film, Michael,
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
This actress, does she remind you of someone, Dario?
Looking at her like this?
Yeah, maybe Carolyn Polimis?
Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell. I have to Google. Wait, Caroline. How much Polimis? How do you even write that?
Polimis. It's presumed innocent.
Oh, okay, I see.
The girl that got murdered.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, totally. Yeah, now I see it. Well,
Now you
I
see
just
it.
saw her dead, so.
Yeah, well, no, not really. There's like plenty of flashbacks. Enough for like 5 episodes there, probably. Anyway, so I think those films are really different. I don't know how we're gonna decide here. So The Worst Person in the World is a Norwegian film about a young woman who, I mean, the story is also a little bit of a coming of age, just as a little bit older person. She, I guess, doesn't really know what to do with her life. She is just taking it a day at a time. And same goes for relationships, I think. And then, yeah, there is a relationship there. That's all I can say without spoiling anything.
Yeah, and the worst person in the world also plays throughout, is it multiple years, I think?
It is multiple
Yeah.
years.
So kind of what we've been talking about in some of the other movies. Yeah, on the other hand, anyone but you, I've seen it this week just because it was on Netflix. I rewatched it. It's a really fun movie, that sort of romantic comedy that we maybe don't get to see that much of anymore. But yeah, on the other hand, it's maybe a more up-to-date version of it. This is not like how okay, maybe How Harry Met Sally is still pretty modern in a sense, but yeah, this is not, like we talked in the beginning, this sort of movie about grand gestures or fairy tale romance. It's more about two people meeting, and then okay, the things click on the first date, but then there's sort of a misunderstanding, and yeah, then it's them dealing with their sort of hate for each other, and they are both invited to a wedding of Glenn Powell's friend and Sydney Sweeney's sister, and they have to get along on this wedding for the sake of their families and their loved ones. So yeah, it's, I think also a bit plays a bit on these this love-hate relationship, but also as well like the sort of daily interactions you have with someone that you meet.
Well, another thing, it is loosely based on Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare, which is not an uncommon thing for romantic comedies. I think there are a lot of romantic comedies that derive from the classics. I mean, another thing is, for example, 10 Things I Hate About You. This is also technically based on Shakespeare. Even the characters' names are similar or the same.
You never miss to mention that it is
What?
based on
About 10 Things
Shakespeare.
I Hate About
Yeah.
You. I love 10 Things I Hate About You. If it was on this list, I would have even more problems. Because 10 Things I Hate About You is one of my favorite films. And again, it is a romance. Like, it is a very traditional romantic film. And I love it. I mean, yeah, I mean, Anyone But You, story-wise, it's a very well-known story, I guess. It's a very traditional film as well. It has a very clear-cut storyline as opposed to the worst person in the world.
I think it's also it has some really funny gags, like when they're going hiking and he sort of gets this. You don't think so? You didn't like that one? Okay,
I
whatever. Yeah.
mean, as far as funny gags in in romantic films go, I don't
Sure.
know.
No, for me it's mostly funny because you can see Sydney Sweeney in the background, so holding in her laughter. That's what the scene, why the scene is funny to me. But yeah, what I also like about this movie, it's filmed in Australia. That's great, and also I feel like modern movies don't do that much anymore is that it ends with the sort of outtakes, and that's a real plus for me. The outtakes, the bloopers. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Maybe a bit more traditional, simpler storyline than Worst Person in the World.
Yeah. Well, so I have seen The Worst Person in the World once, and I don't really remember the story very well. It's a much drier story than Anyone But You, but that's kind of obvious. Anyone But You is a Hollywood rom-com, which is, again, it's a very traditional format, and everybody knows it. It's very comfortable. It's like a very it's like comfort food, comfort watch, I guess, when you don't know what to do with your evening. and it's going to be fine. It's not going to ruin it.
Yeah.
But The Worst Person in the World it's a good movie. I remember it was a good film, but I don't really remember it in so much detail to be able to judge it anymore, I feel like. Of course, the ending is not very clear. I think it leaves you with a lot of questions, which I think is very suitable for the film, because the film never intended to give you any answers, and it doesn't, like, as the character also doesn't have any answers for her questions of being an adult in today's world, of being in a relationship in today's world, what expectations the society has towards you as a woman, towards you as a partner in a relationship. So yeah, I don't really know here. I don't know what to go with.
So let me just tackle on something you said. I think Anyone But You is more relatable in the sense that general audiences know the beat of the story and the gags. What is not so relatable maybe is the situations the characters find themselves in, and that they're both super attractive, and yeah, so it's basically an entertaining movie.
That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Also, another thing that I think well, kind of something we mentioned before already about the grand gestures. This is the movie for grand gestures, because we said that maybe millennial films try to go away from this trope, but this one embraces the trope. The grand gestures are there, at least one.
Yeah, two actually, I would say. Yeah, when he jumps into the water and at the end of the movie. Yeah, those. I think. Yeah, that is true. I wanted to say, on the other hand, The Worst Person in the World is more relatable because it's a longer period of time, and I feel like the situations that we or she finds herself in happen to most millennials, and the hardship she faces.
Yeah.
I also remember that it's quite an European movie in a sense. I think it's filmed in Norway, but I don't know exactly what it was. But I think how how they communicate or what the characters don't say at times, and of course the locations. But yeah, I found that that one, it's a really European movie in a way, that things don't get said, that things are complex, relationships are complex, that yeah, how your family reacts to your partner and that sort of stuff. I think I like Anyone But You. It's really entertaining, but I think I would probably go with The Worst Person in the World, that has just more stuff in it that I would care to rewatch. Although I have rewatched Anyone But You. Yeah.
I think I agree. In terms of the relatability of the story, The Worst Person in the World is definitely it, and Anyone But You, it's not it. I guess just for a different time, for a different evening, you would choose a different film out of these two. But I think probably I'm going to go with The Worst Person in the World, especially because I think this is the only European representative we have on the list. Let's do it.
But what about Sydney Sweeney? No, just kidding.
She's doing fine without
Yeah.
us voting for her.
Yeah,
I think she's really funny in the movie as well. Like in some of the physical comedy she does, she's great. Okay, Worst Person in the World moves on. Now we get to our first semi-final of the right-hand bracket, and it is
Ooh.
Her versus La La Land. A blue poster versus a red poster.
Who wants to start?
Haven't seen either, so again, it's really up to
Yeah.
you guys, I feel like.
You can be the tiebreaker, perhaps, Dario. I mean, for me, I think it's already clear. For me, it's La La Land because of what I said. I mean, that it left a huge impression on me from the only time that I've seen it. I mean, I've seen her only once as well, but I feel like, yeah, La La Land is just One of my favorite movies, I would say.
I will go with her. So we're in trouble here. I loved her very much, and yeah, I think it's a very interesting story for today's time because the loneliness that people have and not the inability to communicate with each other, and that is all due to the kind of the digital world we live in nowadays. I think a lot of people have that problem. Yeah, I can see the appeal of La La Land, and um, in the sense that it also represents a real relationship, of course, and a very realistic relationship. Not to say that the relationship in her is unrealistic. I think this is something that is definitely picking up. But yeah, it's just a different take. And it's maybe if you consider the fact that it's not actually a relationship, it's not a person, it's not a real human being, so it's more of an imaginary thing, because in when you're watching the movie you perceive it as a relationship because you identify the character, this AI, as a real person, because well, it's normal for us, but it actually isn't, it's not human. And so how real can this connection be? And of course there is a hint towards, I'm not actually sure anymore if it is only a hint or if it's actually a fact in the movie that the AI is moving towards being sentient, or if it is already, I'm not quite sure.
I think there was a scene or something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of outgrows the role that is set for her in this world, and then she moves on, and that's how the relationship ends. But yeah, I don't know. I think I love this film. It's a very minimalistic film in comparison to La La Land. And La La Land, everything is very over the top. Not in the bad sense, but in the sense that it is a musical. It does a lot through music, through dance. It's very expressive, and her is very subdued in comparison. But this is something that I love about it, actually. And so I will go with her.
So it's up to me to give the final say. I
Yeah.
haven't seen either, but Michael, I know you love musicals, and I hate them, so I'm gonna go for her. Sorry.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair enough. No, I was actually going to ask you which one would you be more inclined to watch, but I guess yeah, it would be her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. I'm really not like all except the Book of Mormon, which is a great musical. Everything else, I don't know. I'm just skeptical, to say the least.
Okay. Good. Hair moves on. Then our second semi-final is Cha-Cha Real Smooth versus The Worst Person in the World. Yeah, both of them, I guess, sort of coming of age movies, but
Well,
different years.
coming of age for a young adult, for an adult in their
Yeah.
20s, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also not an easy time to be alive.
Oh,
But it's
definitely.
a very different type of relationships here. In The Worst
Yeah.
Person in the World, it is a relationship. It lasts for some time. In Cha-Cha Real Smooth, it's more of a connection. It's not so much a relationship, but it's definitely something that helps the character grow.
Yeah. I mean, Cha-Cha Real Smooth, it's sort of like we said before when we compared it to Licorice Pizza, also like sort of a summer love or a young love, a first love, and then
Mm-hmm.
the character grows from that experience, and it's also very relatable in a sense.
Mm-hmm. I think also if you compare the protagonists in these two films, I think Cha-Cha Real Smooth is more expressive. In The Worst Person in the World, a lot is happening kind of implicitly, and there is not so much explanation as to what the character's going through internally.
That's a good point. Yes. So I guess that's what I wanted to say about it when I was talking about it being more European, but I couldn't articulate it as well. But yeah, I think that's you put it well. That's that a lot of what happens is more implicit, it's more internal. You can maybe see it on her face and how she reacts. But in Chacha Real Smooth, it's pretty much told through dialogue, I would say. Wow. So who wants to go first to vote
Well,
first?
you know what it is for me. I don't have to say
Well,
anything.
I can tell you I will also vote for Chacha Real Smooth because I have seen it and it's a great movie. So I'll vote for that.
Yeah, I think I'll join you both with Cha-Cha Real Smooth as well. I mean, great movies, but if I want to feel great for one evening, I would probably watch Cha-Cha Real Smooth, huh? I guess the worst person in the world is great, a bit more philosophical and a bit more serious, if you will. Cha-Cha Real Smooth moves on. The last matchup of the right-hand side bracket is Her versus Cha-Cha Real Smooth.
Yep.
Oof,
Very different stories.
very different stories. Cha-Cha being more on the uplifting comedic side, Her maybe more on the philosophical side, realistic side. Well, on the other hand, yeah, it's also a bit about the future, what could potentially happen. It I was thinking before that it's a bit in the realm of Black Mirror. I feel like Black Mirror has done the sort of relationship as well in a couple of episodes.
Well, I mean, in terms of the outcome of the story, I would say they are quite similar in the sense that the character comes out of this story of the relationship having learned something about themselves or about the world. And in both cases, they move on with their life, I guess.
Hmm. So maybe I'm going to start us off by voting. I was just thinking that I would vote for Cha-Cha because it's more relatable, I guess, or more vibrant. On the other hand, Her, you sort of maybe I don't feel that connection or empathy towards the character that much. Maybe a bit more mute, or if I guess you watch it more from an objective perspective. It
Mm-hmm.
maybe also because of the color palette, or maybe because it's in the future. On the other hand, Cha-Cha, yeah, I think how it's lit as well, and that it happens during the summer, and he goes through different jobs while the story happens. Dario, would you want to go next?
Well, I think the answer that you just provided resonates with me too. But then again, I haven't seen Her. It sounds like a good movie too. But I'm going with Cha-Cha Real Smooth as well here.
For you, Ala,
Well, for me, the case is clear. It's always Cha-Cha Real Smooth. I love it. And now we can talk about it some
I think
more in the
we have our
final.
finals here, and our final is Past Life versus Cha-Cha Real Smooth.
This is crazy. This is literally what I envisioned for my personal final out of all these.
Oi,
I'm gonna have a hard time with
this is
that.
really hard, yeah.
I love both of the stories. I can relate to both of the stories so well. What I love, I must, I must say it again. What I love about Cha-Cha Real Smooth is, and generally actually, Cooper Raiff being a very young director. This is only his second film, and he's acting in it. And in both films, the character that he embodies is the gentle masculinity character, you know, and I love that. This is something we need to have more of. It's just to show the vulnerability of a guy, a young guy, or generally a man's vulnerability. It's not something that there is a lot of, I feel like, in
This
film.
is preposterous. Men do not have vulnerabilities.
Exactly. See, we need to fight this. We need to fight that assumption, because this film is just showing you a guy's journey through his early 20s from a completely different perspective. Not like all those early 2000 films like American Pie were showing it to you, you know?
I knew that would be the
Because I
example you're gonna
hate
make.
that.
That was
This
clear.
is like something realistic. Not everybody is sex crazed, you know, and not everybody is so self-assured that they are gonna go to any girl and like score. I don't know. It's just like this is not something that I can relate to, and probably not something that a lot of people, especially guys, can relate to, because you know there is this kind of picture that the movies are building for you, and you think, oh, that's how it is growing up, but it's not. And I think this is a film that shows how it could feel, how it feels to be young and to be in love with somebody that you can't have, you know. And I don't know, I think this is a very interesting story. This is a very interesting take on that from a guy's perspective. Of course, it's also, you know, an unrequited love in a way. It's not so much unrequited as kind of, yeah, as I said, like a person you can't have, a relationship you can't have, and I don't know, a compelling story
Yeah,
for
about the
me.
relationship. I mean, it's a bit like the wrong timing, I guess, or it's just it just works for a brief moment. But about the vulnerability, it just triggered something in me. I have a scene in my head. Doesn't he have like a great scene with his mom where they sort of talk about his relationship, or am I mistaken?
I think with his mom.
Yeah.
I really don't remember now anymore. I think so. There are some very warm scenes with his mom.
Yeah, that's why, because I was trying to think about this, where is that shown, that vulnerability? And I have the feeling that there's a couple, maybe one scene where he has a really serious, or not a serious, but a heartwarming talk with his mom. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen this, but yeah, and going back to this vulnerability, I don't think, yeah, it's a good point, because I don't think if in any of these other movies we've talked about, we've seen that. I mean, for sure not in the Glenn Powell movies, maybe in Her, maybe in Challengers, but yeah, this sort of vulnerability, although I feel like it's been shown more in recent years, but at least for the movies that we chose today, it hasn't come up yet.
Well, I also think just Past Lives is, for me personally, a very relatable story. In a way, it's also a story about a long distance relationship. At least part of the story is about that. And also, it's a story about immigration, you know, the divide that it creates in people's lives. As much as it's something gained, it's also something lost. And so this is something that movie represents this, I think, this point of view, because she had no control over it. You know, she was a young girl when she immigrated with her parents. And so having lost this person that was dear to her in her life, I'm sure was kind of a shock for her as a young child. And for him, of course, as well. For him, not maybe even more so than for her, because at least she had new things in her life. She had to get used to new things. But for him, it was just the loss, you know? It was just the loss of this person that was in his life and was very important to him. And then she is not there anymore, and nothing else has changed, you know? And her life became completely different. In a way, this I think his character in Past Lives is also representative of the gentle masculinity. So in that sense, these two movies I think can be compared.
Yeah, about that. I was thinking of a meme. Isn't there this meme that, I mean, this is a bit exaggerated, but that when a girl breaks up with a guy, she moves on quite quickly. And when a guy is dumped by someone, then the guys tend to remember for longer or linger on that
That's
feeling
true. Yeah,
longer.
there is something like that
Yeah.
exists.
I don't know if it's true. That might be a bit more exaggerated, but it fits this sort of movie. Yeah, Dario, anything you want to add to these?
Good question. So, well, for me, Cha-Cha Real Smooth had, I mean, maybe more impact. I feel like is closer to my heart now that we're talking about romance. I feel like that is a very fair argument to say, right? Which movie feels closer to your heart, because then clearly that seems to have done something right in the romance spectrum. Um, and yeah, so Cha-Cha Real Smooth for me, well, is closer to my heart. So I would advocate for it being elected as the winner. Past Lives was also good. They're both, I mean, you guys mentioned it already, right? I think you say they're quite comparable to a certain degree. I would agree to that. But yeah, Cha-Cha Real Smooth maybe also because it's more coming of age again, which is more, or which is generally a genre of movies that I enjoy a lot, with or without the romance part in it. So that's another point for Cha-Cha Real Smooth for me.
So yeah, then for me, it's I think I'm going to go with Past Lives. It's a bit more relatable for me in the sense I haven't had that sort of relationship that I like a girlfriend when I was young, and then sort of I got to meet her many years later, but I did have a relationship that changed once I moved to Europe, so I can relate to that, and sort of staying in touch over long distances. Yeah, also it's a very kind movie, very sensitive movie. Yeah, it's gentle, if you will. Um, yeah, maybe what we did not mention here. So the director and writer of Past Lives is, or the husband is the writer for Challengers. So
Ah.
sort of similar topics or similar love triangles that get talked about in those two movies. But yeah, for me, yeah, I think I like them both really well, but Past Lives did it for me today.
You know what's also interesting? This is, I think, the first movie of Celine Song,
Yes.
and it's second of Cooper Rave. So those are very young or like upcoming
Hmm.
directors. This is very interesting as
Yeah.
well.
By the way, do you guys know if they have any projects ongoing?
Cooper Rave has a film in works, at least it was last time I checked, which is based on. You will have to bear with me here. I have to check quickly.
Should we insert Jeopardy theme while you
Dun,
search, or?
dun, 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 dun. I can't see it
Well,
now
Michael,
anymore.
you seem to be an expert on the other director.
No, not really.
Celine Song. She has a film called Materialists, an upcoming American romantic comedy.
Okay.
Who might replace Past Lives next time we talk about romantic films. Funny, starring Dakota Johnson. Ah! This is such Inception going on here. Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal.
Oh,
That's going to be a good movie.
that's
Look at
good.
that.
That's good. Sounds really promising.
Premise: set in New York City, the film follows the story of a matchmaker, her ex-boyfriend, and a wealthy businessman. Okay. It's an A24 film.
Okay.
So
Okay,
For
sounds
me, at
very
least.
interesting. Cooper Raiff was doing this film with David Harbour and Cooper Hoffman about, I think, a hockey club in Boston or New York, which was connected to some shady business. I saw a documentary about it once. I don't know more, but I know that they were making a film about it and that Cooper Raiff was to direct it, but I don't know now anymore if that's still a thing.
You keep postponing your decision, Ali, I see.
No, I actually, I'm not actually, but I must say I have to go with Cha Cha Real Smooth. I love both films, but Cha Cha Real Smooth is just such a warm film for me. I would rewatch it in an instant. I had the best feeling watching it. It was so great. So I will go with Cha
Yeah,
Cha.
I'm fine with that. I remember when we finished watching it that you were all giddy and very excited. I forgot to ask you, how did you actually hear about it? I mean, I chose that movie that night, but how come?
It was in our library, right? I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest, how it even. Oh, okay. I think I know. I think somebody added it into the watch list of our programming group. And so it was there, and I thought I will add it. Maybe I will watch it. I think that's how I found out
Yeah,
about it. Otherwise, it would really be not on my radar at all, and I would never even have it on my in our library to watch it.
I'm glad it was on your radar, on your library, because
Yeah,
I
for
mean, I
sure.
love that movie too. It's a great one, and I think it's cool that yeah, we all it has elements that we all like. I mean, being coming of age, being a romantic movie, the vulnerability. Yeah, now I want to see it.
Let's do it.
I do want to add though, if you didn't kick out Licorice Pizza so early in the game, it should be here
I mean, I
as
It
the
don't
could be,
know.
winner.
yeah. Yeah,
But that's just
yeah,
a
yeah.
side note here.
Okay, real cool.
If it was, to be honest, if it was Past Lives against Licorice Pizza, it would be Past Lives.
That's where you're wrong, kiddo.
Cool, but I'm really glad that you did have a lot to say about romance movie, even if you maybe aren't the biggest fans, but I'm surprised. This was really fun doing this bracket, even though it took us quite a while.
Do we have some films to recommend that are new romance films that are gonna only that are coming
Ooh,
out?
I need to check my list if I have something on my watch list.
If you want me to bridge in the meantime until you checked your list, do you guys know what is the top rated IMDb movie in the romance category? But of course, I think it's a difficult one because they obviously have other, it's not the main plot, but rather side plots that make the top of this list, it
Hmm.
seems like. But do you want
Maybe
to take a wild
Titanic
guess?
or something?
Oof, that's a
Close,
good
but
guess.
not.
I have no idea.
Forrest Gump.
Oh, right. Yeah, of
Oof.
course.
Titanic is second, by the
Titanic, yeah.
way.
Well, Titanic, I mean, that's a good one. Yeah. I mean, they even parody it. They parody it in Anyone but You. So,
There is a few interesting picks here too. Shrek, by the way, is eighth,
Haha.
and it's the only movie on this list, or at least not on the list, but the highest rated movie on the list that was in our game here.
Mhm.
Slumdog Millionaire is fifth, maybe an honorable mention, although I don't see how it's necessarily a
I mean,
romance.
it is romance. That's the whole premise, I think, of the. I mean, not the premise of the movie, but the underlying motivation of the character in the movie is
Okay. Well,
love.
yeah, but then again, not the main plot, right? The main plot is he's gonna win 1 million.
Yeah, but for what?
Oh, actually, yeah, I don't even remember.
See?
I thought
I
he's
don't know.
just like, I
I
mean,
don't even remember if I've seen this
the
movie.
guy lives in the slums. He's gonna win 1 million for the purpose of not having to live in the slums anymore, I would assume.
You would think.
But then just to add, La La Land is 12. That's the number one rated movie from our list in terms of
Yeah,
IMDb
yeah. I'm
ratings.
not
And then
surprised.
Her with the same rating of 8.0 in IMDb.
Interesting. Yeah, movies
Nice.
coming up. I mean, just now I think the new Bridget Jones movie is coming up, but that's not a movie or a series that I have ever seen completely or followed. But it's not also not something I would go to see, but it's what's currently in cinemas. Maybe I don't understand why. I had no idea that I think there are around 4 movies of that series. Yeah, who knows if that, I guess there's still an audience for that. Personally, it's something coming up, romantic wise. I wanted to see the companion movie. It's not a romance movie, it's a sort of a genre mix, but that looks interesting to me.
Hmm. Well, a film that I am looking forward to watching is a film by Baltasar Kormakur, who is an Icelandic director, and the
What a
film is
name.
called Touch. Speaking of which, Dario, not an unfamiliar director to you, because
Oh,
Baltasar Kormakur directed one of our favorite films, Contraband, with our
really?
favorite actor, Caleb Landry Jones. I did
I
it again!
I thought you would say Mark Wahlberg.
No.
You
Well,
like him. You know, you always say like, no, he's a macho and he's a
I don't
racist,
really
but you like the guy. Come on,
I
just
don't really
admit it.
care about Mark Wahlberg. But so yeah, the film Touch looks like it could be interesting. I don't really know what the story is about exactly, but this is on my watch list, and possibly we will watch it soon.
Okay, so that's what's coming up for this episode. I'm glad that you embraced the love in this episode. Happy Valentine's for those people celebrating that.